Hey everybody, how's everyone doing out there today? So I'm going to cover a topic I was hesitant to talk about and cover because I don't like bringing out the keto trolls. Everyone knows where I stand on the keto diet and the whole food plant-based diet. But over the last several weeks, I've received several requests to please do a video about this topic. So I'm going to do a video about keto crotch, aka funky monkey. As I was started looking at all this, I came up with a whole bunch of alliterations, 20 or so, to talk about this. But of course, I don't want to make light of a serious situation too much. I'm just trying to lighten up the tone so I can deliver the actual messages. So yes, keto crotch, it is a thing. And let's talk about it a little bit. And of course, we can expect the usual keto trolls to come out and be oblivious or be in denial or whatever. So, like I said, people have been asking me to comment on this, but doesn't the topic say it all? I mean, once again, normalizing what is outrageous and making it acceptable. We need to stop the nonsense where something as crazy as keto crotch catches a nickname because it's so common. Then we need to address it. But first, let's just backtrack a little bit. As you know, I've been studying nutrition and diets for decades. So let's just run through, first of all, the well-established, well-known, in the research, whatever, side effects of low-carb keto diets. So, symptoms of ketosis and low-carb diets include general overall fatigue and fatigability, halitosis, which is bad breath. So that's an odor coming from one part of the body. Heavy leg feeling, gradual or abrupt weakness, dizziness, dehydration, brain fog, situational ADD, headaches, confusion, irritability. So imagine having a funky monkey along with the irritability of a low-carb diet. Abdominal pain, cramping, constipation, which is like 80% or something of people low-carb diets experience. Nausea, vomiting, sleep disruptions, which can also create weight issues and metabolic issues of their own. Skin issues, hair falling out, dry eyes, and much, much more. So those are just what we know are the side effects of low-carb keto diets in general. I could come up with a lot more, but this is just from my notes from a while ago. And also, let's make sure you understand, for those of you who are just following this, never heard of this before, there's also the very unpleasant intro to keto phase called keto flu. The keto flu phase, where when you switch to keto, you experience a few days of something that feels exactly like having the flu, except you don't. Which, of course, you're supposed to just ride it out till it all goes away, once again, normalizing what is completely abnormal and outrageous. But let's get to keto crotch, and let's consider keto crotch to go along with halitosis, the bad breath that is also well-known side effect of keto diet. So once again, what we see is negative side effects of keto, but no keto pundit wants to admit it or talk about it. Let's just keep glorifying the diet. These are exceptions, blah, blah, blah. Now, let me make this clear. This topic is only emerging in connection to ladies switching to keto diets and then experiencing keto crotch, hence the nickname that it's been given. Putrid, pungent, odious openings of the body once someone switches to keto. So imagine having odious openings at both ends of your body, top and bottom. Now, there's another factor that I need to mention because I think this is going on as well with the keto all the rage nonsense. When Atkins was all the rage back in the day, there was an underreporting of these serious and debilitating side effects like bad breath, constipation, all these other things. So now more outrageous nonsense and the normalization of very abnormal circumstances when it comes to keto crotch. There seems to be a will with people who diet to tolerate things that are intolerable and shouldn't be tolerated and should instead be seen as signs from the body that the body does not like what you're doing. So a will to tolerate constipation and bad breath and now vaginosis, it just doesn't make any sense. And of course, some of the advice is just wait it out and it'll all get better. No, that's all nonsense, and we got to quit normalizing abnormal reactions of the body. So very important. You wouldn't, I had to laugh. I was looking at some of the comment groups, of course, that want to keep glorifying the keto at all costs. I had to laugh at one keto doctor who actually said, oh, these anti-keto people talk about keto crotch like it's a bad thing. Well, how the hell can keto crotch and a stinky vagina be a good thing? I think what she meant to say was they talk about it like it's an ill health thing. But it's still something to consider, an unwanted bad side effect. You don't just dismiss it. Oh, these anti-keto people, they're going to talk about keto crotch like it's a bad thing. How the hell would it ever be a good thing to have bacterial vaginosis as a result of the way you're eating? That just boggles my mind beyond belief. Now, odious openings from the mouth to the private parts is once again communication from your body that something isn't right. And just because your body will adopt, because that's the kind of wonderful machine that your body is, all these signs should point to maybe it not being such a great idea to wait till your body adopts. Once again, let me do a comparison here for you that I forgot to do up above. So people ask me about all these things. So let me play devil's advocate here by comparison to a plant-based diet. Do we ever hear, you never hear of something like plant-based pungent peckers. You never hear of plant-based putrid pussies. You never hear of vegan vag. So there's something going on here, and the reason it's called keto crotch, and then all this stupid advice to just wait and ride it out like you would with the bad breath and you would with all the other things, it makes no sense. If you have a food allergy and you eat something that makes you violently ill, do you eat it again? Do you just ride it out because it tastes good? So we seem to have blocked off and compartmentalized common sense. So this is very, very ridiculous. Obviously, when you have odors coming from your vagina, it's not normal, especially if if you haven't experienced it before to any major degree. Like all other bad side effects of keto low-carb diet, let's not accept normalizing this effect either. Just because you gather in keto groups and support each other, let's call a spade here. So another comical element to this is that keto defenders who are trying to appear objective are claiming, well, it's never been really researched, so we don't really know what's causing it, which is ridiculous. When the people suddenly experiencing bacterial vaginosis are experiencing it shortly after going keto, hence it gets the name keto crotch, the nickname. Does it really have to be studied first before it can be accepted as a very real additional side effect to low-carb dieting? And as far as we don't really know because there's never been any research on it before. Is that even true? Well, here's one piece of research for you that I found without looking too hard. So first, we'll put up the PubMed link, of course, and you can determine that on your own. But let's put up the whole abstract for you to look at. And let's look at the actual title of the research paper. Dietary intake of selected nutrients affects bacterial vaginosis in women. Boom! Dietary intake of selected nutrients affects bacterial vaginosis in women. We'll put the whole abstract up there. I'll give you a second to take it in. That's from the Journal of Nutrition in 2007. Now I want you to focus on the conclusion. We'll highlight that and we'll throw it up in big, bold, so you can see it. We'll put that right across the screen. Here's a quote from that piece of research. We concluded that increased dietary fat intake is associated with increased risk of bacterial vaginosis and severe bacterial vaginosis, whereas increased intake of folate, vitamin A, and calcium may decrease the risk of severe bacterial vaginosis. So a few things to unpack there. Unfortunately, people look at vitamin A sources and they tend to come from very high fat foods, which creates a contradiction there, comes from like organ meats, things like that. However, the best nutrient sources really for vitamin A are plant-based foods that produce provitamin A and then converts to vitamin A. And we know from research that people who drink too many dairy products actually have more calcium related issues than people who don't consume dairy products, and you can have ample calcium from a whole food plant-based diet. And we know that folate, of course, also comes from plants. But let's go back to that conclusion of the research on how dietary intake of selected nutrients affects bacteria vaginosis in women. A quote, "We conclude increased dietary fat intake is associated with increased risk of bacterial vaginosis and severe bacterial vaginosis." Let's let that run across the screen in bold. Severe bacterial vaginosis. So please note the word here, severe biological bacterial vaginosis from higher fats in the diet. Well, nothing increases fat more in the diet than a keto diet, right? So what do we have here in conclusion, folks, when common sense just ain't so common anymore? Intro to keto, keto flu, halitosis, which is bad breath. Now we got keto crotch, and if you read some of the feedback on keto crotch, ladies being embarrassed to be in public because the odor is so strong and pungent. And yet, this is still not enough for people to make the connection that maybe your body is trying to tell you something, that this diet strategy isn't a very good idea. And to claim that there's no research on it is even more ridiculous. Odious openings from your body and having a funky monkey is not normal, and it should not be normalized. You should just, the advice that you should just wait it out and let it pass is just more ridiculous acceptance of outrageous solutions to weight control, which I covered in another video. So here's that piece of research. Dietary intake of selected nutrients affects bacterial vaginosis in women. Journal of Nutrition in 2007. So very, very good. And like I said, in terms of plant-based, you don't see whole discussion groups about plant-based pungent peckers or vegan vag. Now, are there certain isolated foods that can contribute to vaginosis? Yeah, we know sauerkraut can do that, which is a plant-based thing, but you'd have to eat an inordinate amount of it in order to have that effect. What this research says is higher the fat, higher the risk, and severe bacterial vaginosis. So keto crotch, yeah, it's a thing, and it's another thing that keto people are willing to just live in denial of and just accept. Well, we need to stop accepting what is unacceptable. I feel bad for ladies who think they've got to stick with something like this and ride it out. Keto flu, all these other side effects that I mentioned, and now keto crotch, which is a very polite way of saying just how nasty the odors can be coming from the female vagina from adopting a keto diet. You can read about it in several forums or whatever, but there are ladies who are completely embarrassed about it, and for good reason, and our heart goes out to them, of course. But let's stop adopting the last course of action that may work for a short term. Let's do something that has less side effects, that is well known to work short term and long term. So the whole food plant-based diet, once again, keto crotch, yep, it's a real thing. I had a bunch of other names for it, but I don't want to insult anybody. And I'm not trying to insult people who are going through this. I'm trying to make a point about the people who will defend keto at all lengths. From the start, just get through keto flu, to all of the side effects I just listed. Maybe we can throw them up there again. And that's just some came up the top of my mind. And now, of course, whole discussion groups devoted to keto crotch, which is bacterial vaginosis, and it's really, really unfortunate to see. And like I said, we don't see any discussion groups about this sort of side effect from adopting a whole food plant-based diet. So that's keto crotch. That's all I have to say about it for now. I'm sure the keto trolls will come out and tell me where I'm wrong and how one-sided I am. But at least I did produce a piece of research that relates bacterial vaginosis to fat intake. There's no more fat intake to most weight loss diets than the keto diet. So make that correlation beyond correlation. And let's get real about getting real and stop accepting that the most outrageous thing is the one thing that you should do. Let's stop accepting what's unacceptable. There is no way that bacterial vaginosis should be an acceptable side effect of any kind of diet strategy. That's my rant. I hope it serves some of you. I hope some of you will get it. And I hope those living in denial, don't go to those keto pages where everyone's just in denial and glorifying everything keto. These are real side effects of low-carb keto diets, and happy to deliver it. And for those who wrote me the last 4 to 6 weeks to please do a video on keto crotch, here you go. I don't like doing things. I like talking about things I can support rather than going and talking about things that I think are outrageous, because it just attracts all the trolls, which I'm sure we'll see in this comment thread. Always meant to help. Not trying to insult anyone with those, funny little alliterations I was making. But that's a video on keto crotch. I wasn't going to do it, and then boom, it turns up on national news. And that's when I knew this is something I better discuss. When it's on national news, it's obviously a thing. And they weren't just talking about any diet and vaginosis. They talked specifically keto crotch and vaginosis. Stop accepting what's unacceptable. Stop normalizing what is outrageous. That's my rant. Let me know what you think. I'll see you all in the next video.